The materials you'll need to sew your bag lining is fabric. You're also going to need a sewing needle and thread. Ideally, the thread matches the fabric. You'll need sewing pins, scissors. I'm just using a pen, but if you have like a fabric marker or a pencil, that's helpful. And then I also find a ruler to be helpful as well. Okay, so what you'll need to do first is fold your fabric in half, and wherever your bottom seam is of your bag, you're going to lay your fabric out and place the bottom of the bag along that seam. I'm going to trace the outline of the bag. I'm going to use the ruler just so I get nice, clear, straight lines. But I just want to make an outline of where the bag is so I know where to cut. So we have that side. And we'll do this side. And then the top of the bag. Okay, so now I have the outline of the bag, and what I'm going to do is not cut on that line, but you're going to give yourself a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'm really just going to eyeball it, but you can see with the ruler, that a 1/2 inch is not a lot. So I'm just going to eyeball it, but basically you just want to give yourself a 1/2 inch seam allowance. All right, so now that you have the top, the seam on the bottom, you'll take your sewing pins and just pin up the sides. So I'm not doing too many pins, just to kind of hold it in place and help with the sewing. All right, so now that the sides are pinned, we're going to start sewing. Take your needle, set it aside, and then just get a nice long piece of thread. Cut, and take the needle and thread it through one end. And then you're going to meet up the two ends. So your thread is folded in half. Now this is how I was taught how to knot when sewing in middle school home ec. So there might be a better way, but this is how I was taught. So just wrapping it around your middle finger, your pointer finger and thumb like 3 times. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, and then just kind of pinching it and rolling it, and then pulling it tight. Roll, pull it tight, roll, pull it tight, and just keep doing that, and you'll feel that there's a knot that formed. And that's it. I don't know, I'm sure there's a more technical way, but middle school home ec, teaching you everything you need to know. All right, so now I'm going to start at the corner here, and I'm just going to go right at the bottom and go in and out a bunch of times to make sure it's going to stay really secure in that corner. So before I do any stitching, I'm going in a bunch of times. Got a little stuck there, but that's okay, we're gonna keep going. Okay, so now I'm ready to stitch. So I'm gonna do a back stitch, I believe it's called. So I'm gonna go just a little bit ahead of where I inserted, pull the needle through, and then go back and pull it through. So you have that stitch there. Now I'm going to go insert from the back to the front, a little bit ahead, pull it through, and then go right back to where that stitch starts and insert there and pull it through. The key is to make your stitches as small as possible. You're not using a sewing machine, so you want to act as a sewing machine and make your stitches really tight and really close together the best you can. Even though it can get tedious, it's worth it in the long run to have a nice lining to your bag. So I'm just going to keep doing this back stitch, going all the way up the side of the bag, going all the way up. And then if you run out of thread, which I'm probably going to, just repeat the process again and go in and out a bunch of times with the knot and then continue going with the back stitch. Okay, so now I've gone all the way up the side except for the 1/2 inch seam allowance at the top, and I'm going to leave that space, I think. So in order to knot it off, I'm going to just put my needle in and out, just like that, and pull it so that there's a loop. Kind of got messy, but let's see if I can find it. Okay, so there's the loop. I'm going to go in and out once, twice, and then pull it tight. And I'll do that again. So in and out, pull a loop, and then go in and out of that loop once, twice, and then pull that nice and tight, and then just cut the tail. Okay, so next I'm going to put the lining into the bag. So first I want to just fold this down. And even if you wanted to like take an iron and just like iron it so it's kind of stays. But then you're going to take the lining and place it into the bag, and then just line up the corner with the corner. On both sides. And once you kind of do that and you get the corner folded, then you can immediately start pinning. It'll make it easier to line everything else up. So I'm just going to pin that in place with a few pins. Okay, so I have that pinned on that side. I'm going to make sure it stays folded all the way around, and take it to the other side. All right, so now that the sides are pinned down, then it's easier to kind of pin down the rest of the bag. So I'm going to go here and pin the top and the bottom. And then I'm going to pin now around the rest of the bag. Just make sure that it's, you know, just below where the crochet work starts. So it's not like perfectly lined up with the top, but just below. Okay, so now that the bag is pinned, we can start to sew. Once again, I'm going to take a really long piece of thread and place one end through the needle and fold it in half, and then I'm making the knot the same way. Just spinning it around, twisting and pulling. So now I'm going to start on the waist sides. I'm going to take the needle and place it in between the crochet work and the fabric. So to put it in between there, get it a little bit lower so when you pull, that knot goes right inside. And now right in that same space, I'm just going to go in and out a few times. So try to go right in the same spot. Again, just to make it nice and tight. You won't be able to see it from the outside. Okay, so now I'm going to, let's remove this pin. In order for it to not, you can't see the stitching from the outside of the bag, you want to insert through the fabric and just kind of catch some of the yarn with the needle. Poke it through and then pull it through. Go a little bit over. Just kind of catch a little bit of yarn and pull it through. So this is, I believe, called a running stitch. Just going right next to it, catching a little bit of yarn and pulling it through. And then you just want to check and make sure that you are catching that yarn. So you can see it is going around the yarn, but you can't see it from the outside of the bag. Going around the entire bag. So just going all the way around, just a running stitch until you get back around to the front. Okay, and there you have your bag lining. So once you get to the other side, just make a knot and pull it through, cut the ends, and you're all done. You can push the lining down, make sure it's all fitted, and you can see that it's not as perfect as if it was sewn on a sewing machine, but it really does get the job done without having to invest in a sewing machine and just invest in a few materials, hand sew it. Really doesn't take that much time, and it makes your bag look so much better. So to follow more bag tutorials, you can like and subscribe, check out my other videos on bags, and then I have another video on a bag lining for a boxed bottom. This is just a flat bottom, but otherwise that is it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.